park ranger reveals 7 sinister rules to survive the cursed, haunted Rocky Mountains. Ella Thompson felt a chill ripple through her as she read the ominous headline on her phone. The Rocky Mountains, once a backdrop for family stories, whispered of creatures lurking behind every tree. They promised family memories but hinted at shadows that danced just beyond sight. She glanced at her kids, Lucas, with wide, imaginative eyes shadowed by fear, and Mia, whose innocent bravery invited trouble. Ella couldn't shake the feeling of dread clinging to her as they piled into the car, an unease taut as the mountain roads winding ahead. As dusk fell, they arrived at the cabin, its rustic charm quickly overshadowed by a growing darkness. Silence enveloped them, thick and unsettling. Ella tried to shake off the chills creeping up her spine as shadows stretched across the forest like skeletal fingers. "Let us explore," she declared, masking her own apprehension behind a brave smile. Yet as they trekked deeper into the woods, Ella felt eyes watching them. Her heart raced, every rustle in the underbrush an echo of anxiety. At last, they stumbled upon an old, dilapidated park ranger station. The paint was peeling as if trying to shed secrets long buried. "Let us check it out," Mia exclaimed, her courage pushing them inside. Dust danced in the air, filtering through cracks, as they roamed among relics of a forgotten era. A tense thrill coursed through Ella when she unearthed an ancient booklet titled 7 Sinister Rules. The frantic scrawl of a past ranger sent shivers down her spine. She brushed it off as a childish joke until a gust of wind swept through, howling through the hollow trees. That night, as Ella tucked her kids into bed, she couldn't shake the feeling of something lurking just outside their cabin. As shadows twisted fangs against moonlight, she thought of the whispers from townsfolk, their nervous glances weighed down by unspoken warnings. The mountains, it seemed, held dark tales she wasn't prepared for. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Night turned to a living nightmare. Lucas withdrew, he spoke of unseen creatures creeping at the edge of his dreams. Mia darted into the woods, giggling at something only she could perceive. Ella watched helplessly as their innocence unraveled, whispers of accusation lacing through the cabin community. The butcher's wide grin haunted her in passing, the park ranger lingered a bit too long, a shadow himself. A gnawing realization clawed at Ella's insides, the darkness wasn't just out there. It seeped into her home, tainting every laugh and murmur. Each broken rule echoed with weight as the family's grip on reality slackened. Shadows took shape, mocking her fears with grotesque playfulness. As the night of reckoning approached, she felt hunted. What would she sacrifice to keep her children safe? The final night loomed like a predator, and with a racing heart, Ella found herself teetering on a bleak cliff between hope and despair. In a moment of terror, she braced herself for the unspeakable horrors that would unveil the truth hiding in the mountains, realizing she might not escape the very legacy they sought to outrun. The cabin quivered as the forest closed in, daring her to defy the rules they had so carelessly ignored. What would it cost them to flee? The woods screamed for answers, and Ella was left wondering, had they already lost? A heavy silence fell over the cabin, suffocating and oppressive. Ella lay wide awake, the shadows swaying against the walls like twisted figures, pressing against her sanity. She strained to hear Mia's soft snores from the other room, their rhythm a fragile comfort amid the impending dread. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced the stillness, shattering the air like glass. Ella shot up, heart hammering in her chest. "Mia!" she called, voice cracking. Panic gripped her, and she bolted from her bed. The cabin's wooden floor creaked under her frantic steps as she raced to her daughter's room. Mia sat upright in bed, eyes wide with terror. "Mom! It was in my dream. It was right there." She pointed toward the corner of the room, accusing the shadows. Ella followed her gaze, dread pooling in her gut. What was it, honey? I don't know. Mia cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. It had sharp teeth and it laughed. Ella gathered her daughter close, gripping her tight. It was just a dream, sweetheart. Just a dream, she whispered, even as doubt clawed at her mind. The laughter Mia described echoed in her memory, too similar to the whispers she had heard days before. Mom! Lucas burst through the door, his face pale and ashen. There's something outside. Ella's stomach twisted. Outside? He nodded vigorously. I saw it. It looked like a person, but not. It was all wrong. She felt the room constrict around her, panic welled up as she thought of the rules in that old booklet. We need to stay calm, stay inside. But what about the rules? Lucas insisted, his voice trembling. What if we already broke them? The words echoed, resonating in the silence. She remembered the 6th rule, stay inside after dark. The forest, heavy with the scent of pine and decay, felt alive, and Ella suspected it was watching. Yet a line of fire lit her veins. What had they done? This wasn't just a cabin, it was a trap. How do we leave? She muttered, dread crashing over her. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from outside, splintering the evening quiet. It could have been a tree branch, or something far worse. The door rattled, and Ella's heart seized. Get back! She hissed, pushing the kids toward a closet. They huddled together, tears in their eyes, and she felt the weight of despair settle in their bones. Ella grabbed a flashlight, her hands trembling. She flicked it on, the beam slicing through the darkness. Stay quiet. We'll wait. Something rustled outside, close. Too close. Her breath trembled in her chest, and dread twisted in her stomach. The door creaked under some unseen pressure, a hulking presence beyond their flimsy barrier. Then it stopped and a suffocating lull filled the air. Mom! Mia whispered, squeezing Lucas's hand, her voice knocking against the tension like a pebble in a chasm. Sure, but it was as if the night itself held its breath, waiting. Shadows shifted beyond the door, darker than before, and the air turned electric with tension. Ella's pulse quickened. Then came a soft tap, tap, tap. It matched the rhythm of tapping fingers or claws. A sickening fear closed her throat. What if the rules weren't just warnings but condemnations? Suddenly, the tapping stopped and the door bent inward, creaking, squealing like metal being pulled apart. Mom! Lucas whimpered. Just before the door burst open, a shadowy figure loomed. Ella stood frozen, paralyzed by fear, the boundaries of dread slipping away. With a desperate cry, she pulled her children close. Whatever was on the other side promised no safety, only horror. What lay before them was a manifestation of everything the Rangers' rules warned against. As the shadows coalesced, Ella braced herself, terrified of what revelation would unfold next. Had they truly lost the battle against the night? Or was something more sinister about to claim them? The door shattered inward with a violent bang, exploding into splinters of wood that rained down like confetti, horrific confetti. Ella staggered backward, clutching Mia and Lucas, their small bodies pressed tight against her, the flashlight beam flickering and uncertain. From the ruins of the door emerged a thing, human yet warped, a grotesque parody of a person. Its skin was sallow, stretched taut over bones that seemed eager to burst forth. Hollow eyes gleamed like polished stones, unblinking, and a jagged grin split its face, revealing teeth that glistened with the promise of violence. Mia gasped softly, her wide eyes full of fear, just before Ella covered her mouth. Ella's mind raced, scattering with thoughts. What were they supposed to do? Rules be damned, they were past the point of safe. Run! Lucas shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of terror. Ella wanted to comply, but her legs felt rooted to the ground. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet she was frozen, caught in the nightmare unfolding before them. The figure stepped through the remnants of the door, limbs moving with a sickening grace, as if it floated rather than walked. Even from a distance, the creature emanated a stench of rot and decay, an odor that clawed at Ella's throat. She finally regained command of her limbs. Heart pounding, she shoved the kids toward the back window. "Go. I'll hold it off." Her voice was firm, but fear bled through. "What are you doing?" Lucas cried, eyes darting back between the creature and his mother. "I'll be right behind you," Ella assured, knowing it was a dangerous promise. Without hesitation, she pushed her children up onto the sill, pushing Mia first. She watched them scramble, but something pulled her gaze toward the wretched figure just as it lunged, unholy speed and unnatural hunger distorting its features into a mask of pure malice. A primal scream tore from her throat. Ella grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and hurled it at the creature. The glass shattered, a fleeting distraction that broke its gaze. "Go. Now." With a final shove, both children tumbled through the window, hitting the ground just outside with a muffled thud. Ella was almost through the gap herself, but the creature twisted, blocking her escape. She scrambled back on her hands and knees, her breath quickening, a wave of pure dread crashing over her. The figure moved closer, its fingers elongating, curling like wicked claws ready to snatch her back into the dark depths of the cabin. The memories of the forest rules echoed in her mind. What had they unleashed? She glanced back at the window. Her children, they were outside, they were safe. She had to protect them. Ella, the beast, rasped her name, its voice like nails on a chalkboard, wrapping around her heart with icy fingers. "You're going to wish you never left home." With a surge of desperation fueled by maternal instinct, Ella shot to her feet, the flashlight's beam cutting through the air. If she could just make it to the door, she could reach them. But the creature lunged forward, jaws snapping. Just as it reached for her, Ella jerked away and stumbled, tripping over the debris. The world spun in chaotic motion. But instead of pulling her back, the creature hesitated, a flicker of something like annoyance granting her a moment's freedom. "Mom!" Lucas shouted, his voice laced with panic. They were waiting for her. The window offered escape, but what was waiting for them outside? Ella's heart hammered painfully as she reclaimed momentum, scrambling through the jagged opening. Outside, the night air was thick, alive with the tension of uncertainty. But the woods twisted ominously behind her, shadows stretching like gnarled fingers. They weren't safe yet. As she landed beside her children, she turned to the cabin, full of fear and dread. What could they do to escape its grasp? And what other horrors lurked in the dark? "Run!" Ella yelled, and they bolted into the night, each leap echoing hope and terror. Yet even in their haste, the forest seemed to close in around them, alive with stirring shadows. Just ahead, maniacal whispers flitted through the tall trees, mingling with soft laughter that chilled Ella to the core. Where did they come from? Was this evil playing its hand? But as they ran, they unwittingly became a part of the sinister game, bound by rules they still didn't fully understand. What had they awoken? The darkness breathed around them, unveiling an even greater terror that awaited in the shadows. The woods swallowed their cries as they ran, branches clawing at them like skeletal hands desperate to pull them back. Ella's chest tightened, the pounding of her heart a drumbeat of panic, her breath coming in sharp gasps. "Where are we going?" Mia whimpered, her small hand gripping Ella's tight, knuckles white against the darkness. "Just keep running," Ella yelled, letting frustration seep through. She glanced over her shoulder, the cabin a grim silhouette against the moonlit sky. The air seemed to vibrate with something sinister, and she could almost hear the laughter echoing through the trees, mocking their flight. They raced deeper into the underbrush, the path growing tangled and treacherous. Shadows flickered like ghosts on the edge of her vision. Every step crunched beneath their feet, but those sounds were swallowed quickly by the heavy silence that surrounded them, as if the forest was holding its breath, waiting. "We can't stop. Ella!" Lucas cried as they stumbled over roots, their footing failing under the weight of their fear. A thudding sound began to echo behind them. Ella turned again, her instincts screaming. The creature was not far behind, a twisted figure casting long, unnatural shadows that danced and flickered through the night. It prowled rather than ran, stalking them like prey. Faster! Ella urged, adrenaline flooding her body. Mom, I can't. Lucas gasped, dragging his feet. He was losing energy fast. Just a little further. They had to find shelter somewhere safe, somewhere it couldn't reach them. Suddenly, the trees parted, revealing a clearing bathed in ethereal moonlight. In the center stood a large, ancient tree, the kind that felt alive, its branches stretching out, fingers of wood reaching toward the sky. A sense of urgency pushed them closer. Climb! Ella urged, her voice filled with desperation. They scrambled up the gnarled roots into the tree. As they clambered, Ella felt the air around them shift, charged with tension. She hoisted Mia onto a sturdy branch but paused when Lucas hesitated. Come on, Lucas. You can do it. Ella coaxed, heart racing. He shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. What if it gets us? It won't. Just climb. Please. Finally, he took a leap, hands grasping at the bark, shoulders straining as he pulled himself up. Ella was scrambling to hoist herself beside him when they heard the unmistakable snap of a twig beneath an impossible weight. The creature was near. Mama, it's coming. Mia whimpered, her innocence piercing through the veil of terror. Shoo. Stay low. Ella hissed, crouching close among the tangled branches. The moonlight cast eerie shadows that shifted restlessly, its glow almost feeling like a warning. From below, a low growl rumbled through the roots. The creature was there, its foul breath wafting up like a dark fog. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves in a way that sounded almost like whispers. Leave now, join us. The voices slithered through the air, surrounding them with promises woven in silk and poison. Ella shivered, both from fear and the icy touch of the wind. What do you want? She whispered to the night. Leave. Lucas echoed, his eyes wide with terror. The whispers intensified, weaving a deadly symphony that threatened to drown them in despair. Thoughts tumbled through Ella's mind, memories of her childhood hiking trips, tales of rangers warning against nightfall in these woods, how the forest craved something in return. A sacrifice, perhaps. Branches creaked overhead, and beneath them, the growl morphed into a chilling laughter. They were not alone in this tree. A pair of glimmering eyes stared back at them from the shadows, another grotesque figure, watching hungrily. Ella, what do we do? Lucas whispered, panic threading through his voice. As she stared into the void below, uncertainty gnawed at her heart. We have to wait it out, she murmured, but deep inside, she feared that time was not on their side. The night crackled with malevolence, and each second felt stretched thin. What other horrors lay hidden in this cursed forest? Then Ella noticed a shimmer in the branches above. A tattered piece of cloth flapped in the wind like a ghostly banner, and with it came a strange compulsion, pulsing invitation, stirring a memory buried deep. What had they awakened, and what would they have to do to survive the cursed woods? The tree groaned, and Ella's grip tightened as she realized the true game had only just begun. The undercurrent of a sinister melody wrapped itself around Ella and her children, suffocating the quiet, grieving woods. The laughter from below grew louder, shifting into something akin to a child's sing-song, twisted with malice. Mommy, I'm scared, Mia whispered, her small frame trembling. Stay close to me, Ella murmured, her heart hammering as she caught sight of those gleaming eyes haunting the darkness. They belonged to the grotesque figure crouching halfway up the tree, its body contorted in ways that defied nature. A rush of panic surged through her. The weight of the forest bore down, heavy and oppressive. Above them, the tattered cloth danced as if it were alive, beckoning with its spectral allure. What does it mean? Lucas asked, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, she breathed, scanning the branches, avoiding the creature's stare. She felt it pressing down on her like an invisible hand. Mama, Mia's voice trembled like a willow in the wind. They want something. They always want something, Ella said, forcing the words out. The whispers from below had morphed again, this time into a sharp cacophony of pleads and promises, drowning her thoughts. Join us, be part of the night, let the darkness consume. The whispers pulsed, resonating through her bones. Ella clutched Mia tighter, feeling the soft warmth of her daughter fighting against the looming coldness. Don't listen to them, she commanded, though doubt crept in like fingers tracing across her skin. Suddenly, the grotesque figure moved, stretching its gnarled fingers toward them, each joint cracked and elongated. With a sudden jolt, Ella realized the shadows around the tree were shifting. They flickered and flared, becoming a mass of faces, silent wails twisted in agony, belonging to souls who had once tried to escape. "Mama, please." Lucas started to whimper, watching Ella with fear-filled eyes. "They're trapped," Ella shouted, horror crashing into her like bricks. "Those are the souls, they don't want to be free." The figure below let out a spine-chilling laugh, a mocking resonance that echoed through the clearing. "Sacrifice, sacrifice, become one of us," it beckoned, sending a violent chill down Ella's spine. The woods vibrated as if they could feel her growing terror. With renewed desperation, Ella clutched her kids and climbed higher into the gnarled branches, shaking with fear and fatigue. "If we go higher, maybe it can't reach us." "Mom! Wait!" Lucas cried out, his foot slipping as he clambered up behind her. "No. You have to focus. Keep climbing." Ella barked, as her heart raced faster than before. The branches whipped against her face, tearing at her shirt, as if trying to pull her back into the dark maw below. A sudden rush of wind howled through the clearing, carrying with it an unnatural chill that froze her blood. The laughter faded, replaced with desperate whispers that seemed to weave between the rustling leaves. "Let us out, we can help, don't leave us." Ella's grip faltered, and she felt a scream bubble from the depths of her being. She looked back down as the figure in the darkness twisted, its shape changing, becoming more human yet hideous. The faces around the tree grew more distinct, mouths opening wide in pain, begging for something she couldn't comprehend. In the distance, the atmosphere shifted. A flicker of light broke through the canopy, a faint glow, pulsating like a heartbeat. Maybe it held a way out, something that could save them, or perhaps, it was another horror. "Mia, Lucas, we need to go toward that light," she urged, pulling on their hands despite the panic gripping her heart. The tree creaked ominously, as if protesting against their ascent, whispering secrets of those it had claimed. With renewed urgency, Ella began to edge toward the ghostly luminescence, unaware of the dark eyes following her every move, the figure below now poised with a hunger that clawed from without and within. What awaited them in the light? Was it hope or something worse? The clearing buzzed with anticipation, and Ella felt the air thicken as every shadow seemed to battle against her, an ancient force refusing to let go of its prey. Would she lead them to salvation or damnation? The branches seemed alive, clawing at Ella as she pushed through the thicket, each splintered limb scraping against her skin. The pulsing light flickered wildly, taunting her, leading her further away from the grotesque figure below. But was it truly a way out? "Mommy!" Lucas cried, struggling to keep up. Panic surged in her chest. The laughter flowed up again, crawling beneath her skin, mingling with the desperate whispers that seeped from the shadowy forms below. "We know your secrets, we can help you, just let us in, shut up." Ella roared, her breath hot and frenzied. She glanced down, and the darkness grinned back at her, menacing and alive. The faces contorted in agony twisted into sneers, a symphony of dread that crashed against her like waves. "Look!" Mia pointed shakily at the light. "Mom, it's getting brighter." But as they climbed, the light shifted, pulsating with an unsettling intensity, almost as if it was breathing. Ella's heart raced. Should they trust it? What could be lurking behind that radiant surface? With each branch they ascended, hope battled against despair. Eventually, they reached a level of the tree where the air felt charged, a buzzing, electric thrill that held the promise of safety. "Mom, I'm tired," Lucas whimpered, his little voice trembling. He leaned against Ella, scraping the bark with his shoulder. Just a little further. We're almost there. She urged him on, her words a fragile thread holding them together. Suddenly, the gentle breeze shifted into a chilling gust, whipping around her like claws. Ella gasped, feeling the cold seep deep into her bones, extinguishing the warmth of her children's presence. Mia. Lucas. Hold on to me. The shadows below screeched, a cacophony of enraged whispers, drowning out everything else, and then, the light broke through like thunder, illuminating the area around them, casting stark shadows long against the tree trunk. It pulsed, revealing a clearing of what seemed to be carved stones, ancient symbols etched into them, glimmering with that eerie glow. What are those? Lucas whispered, eyes wide in awe and fear. A trap, Ella murmured, dread filling her veins. But as they gazed down, the grotesque figure slithered into the illumination, its smile grotesque and wide, eyes gleaming with ferocity. You seek freedom, yet you race toward your doom. Come. Join us. Forever. Her heart thundered violently. How could that creature speak of freedom while its very presence felt like chains tightening around her? No, we want tea. Ella shouted, as if declaring war against that vile promise. In a rush, the light flared brighter, and for a moment, she thought she could see glimpses of another world or the afterlife, maybe. Faces she recognized, blissful and serene. But those trapped souls still watched, their expressions contorted in pain, pleading silently. Mom, please, let us go. Mia whined, gripping Ella's arm tighter, her small knuckles white with fear. I'm trying. Just hold on. Ella called back, fighting against the pull from below. Was the figure luring them, or could it be their salvation? Suddenly, the earth trembled beneath their feet, stones shifting and groaning as if awakening from a slumber. You have to decide, Ella. Light or dark? Choose. The shrill voice beckoned from below, a warped reflection of her own. Terror gripped her throat. They were running out of time. Above the trees, the moon hung heavy in the dark sky, adding to the atmosphere its light cold and unforgiving. Get ready. Ella screamed, lunging toward the light as the shadows surged, ready to pull them in, but just as they leaped, a powerful force knocked against Ella, the ground crumbling beneath her. She felt herself falling into that suffocating abyss, into the waiting arms of the darkness that whispered her name. Would the light reveal salvation or doom? What awaited them in that brief moment of freefall? Something clicked inside her, something that could change everything. And then, they landed. Ella hit the ground hard, winded, as if the very earth had taken a deep breath before exhaling her with force. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a wild animal desperate to escape a cage. The children tumbled beside her, groaning in a mix of shock and fear. Mom, are we? Lucas's voice quivered, too scared to finish his question. Ella pushed herself up, scanning their surroundings. They lay in a dark clearing, the shadows thick like fog wrapping around them. The eerie light still flickered above, illuminating a narrow path that wound deeper into the forest, marked by gnarled trees that twisted like skeletal fingers against the sky. Stay close, she whispered, trying to sound brave for Mia and Lucas, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The grotesque figure was gone, but its laughter echoed in her mind, a haunting melody that made her skin crawl. What did it mean by join us? Each step they took felt like a betrayal of safety, the promises of the light hanging like a curse. Mom! Look! Mia tugged at her sleeve, pointing toward a series of strange symbols carved into the bark of a nearby tree. They glimmered with an unsettling glow, almost pulsing. What are those? Don't touch anything. Ella snapped, instantly regretting her harsh tone, but the fear bubbled over. She had to keep them safe. A gust of wind howled through the clearing, carrying whispers that chilled her bones. They spoke of despair and darkness, tales of lost souls who had wandered too deep and never returned. Ella shuddered, pulling the kids closer. Let us go this way, she urged, heading toward the narrow path. The pulsing glow of the light above beckoned, yet the shadows seemed to stretch and warp, trying to reach for her. She felt a desperate tug in her chest, a cry for help, or perhaps, a warning. They crept along the path, each step weighed down by dread, when suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted again. Sharp rocks jutted up like jagged teeth. The darkness loomed closer, and Ella felt the pressure of unseen eyes watching them, eager for a misstep, hungry for their fear. Mom! Lucas squealed, clutching at her waist. What if the shadows come back? They can't hurt us, Ella said, forcing conviction into her voice. Just keep moving. But inside, seeds of doubt were sprouting. Where were they going? What if the grotesque thing in the light was not their enemy, but their only chance? The thought clawed at her mind, leaving her breathless. As they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, swirling with the wind. Join us, come to the light, stop it. Ella yelled into the night, her voice breaking. She felt their pull, an insistent tugging, as if the shadows were trying to draw her away from the path of potential safety. Mia stopped, looking up at her with wide, terrified eyes. Mom, what is happening? Before she could answer, a shape lunged out of the thick brush, and Ella barely had time to react. The creature was smaller than the grotesque figure, but its features were sharper, more defined, a twisted version of a child, snarled lips and wild hair. You left us. It howled, its voice a shriek that pierced through the night. You belong to us now. Ella's heart dropped into her stomach, panic clawing at her throat. Run! She screamed, as the thing reached for them, fingers clawing the air desperately. The glow above pulsed more violently now, an all-consuming beacon wrapped in uncertainty. They fled down the path, adrenaline surging, yet the shadows followed like stalkers, taunting them. You can't escape, you're already one of us. In that chilling moment, doubt seeped in again. Would they ever find their way out? Would they even want to if the shadows promised to give them what they truly desired? But the words of the figure echoed in her head. Was the choice ever really theirs to make? As they raced forward, the clearing grew darker, and Ella sensed they were nearing a precipice, the edge of something vast and unknowable. Mom! Lucas shouted, pointing ahead. Ella halted, breath catching. Before them lay a massive chasm, deep and black, swallowing light and hope. Whole. Shadows writhed at the edge, calling to them with a sinister allure. Jump! Join us! They beckoned, stretching their hands over the void. What do we do now? Ella whispered, frozen in place, torn between fear and an inexplicable longing to leap into the unknown, to surrender fully. A terrifying choice lay before them. What awaited on the other side? Did the light offer salvation, or was it merely another trap? And as the shadows twisted and caressed the edge of the chasm, she understood, they were running out of time. The abyss loomed before them like a hungry mouth, ready to swallow the last remnants of hope. Ella's breath hitched as her mind raced, weighing the crushing embrace of the shadows against the treacherous leap into darkness. The voices from the shadows were a sickening melody, inviting yet threatening. Join us, it's easier here. Lucas shuddered beside her. Please, Mom, don't make me jump. What would happen if we did? Mia cried, eyes wide with fear. The chasm felt alive, pulsing, as if it could sense their hesitation. No! Ella shouted, shaking her head violently. They couldn't trust anything here, not even themselves. We jump. The air crackled with tension, and the whispering shadows seemed to respond, growing louder, angrier. You left us. You can't escape our embrace forever. With arms wrapped tightly around her children, Ella inched backward, away from the edge, while her heart drummed a frantic rhythm in her chest. What was at the bottom? Was the void truly emptiness, or was it a dark paradise they couldn't yet comprehend? How could they choose when all choices felt like traps? Mom, Lucas whimpered, his voice breaking. What are we going to do? Ella's gaze darted around, searching for something, anything solid to hold on to. Then, through the chaos of shadows, she spotted the glimmering symbols etched into the trees. They pulsed with a glow, contrasting against the deepening darkness. We need to move. Stay close and don't look back. But even as she turned, the pull of the chasm tugged at her like an unseen force. Every step away felt like a betrayal, a hardening of fear as the whispers shifted tone, morphing into something sinister. "Join us, you're hopeless, Ella. You know it. Shut up." She screamed, shaking her head again, the warmth of her children's small bodies grounding her. The path curved dangerously ahead, twisting deeper into the darkness, and she forced herself to focus on the glow of the symbols. She had to believe they led to safety. Suddenly, against the darkness, a sound drew her attention. A soft giggle, then another, and another fainter yet so chilling it sent shivers down her spine. "Remember us, Ella? You promised you'd come back." Fragments of laughter echoed around her, too many voices, too familiar. All the kids she'd known from the park, the ones who'd wandered too close to the shadows who never returned. "No." She gasped, gripping onto her children like they were her only lifeline. The forest felt alive, pressing in, closing them off from possibility, but they had to keep moving. The path narrowed, branches clawing at them thickly, marking them. The laughter faded into the background, replaced by a dead silence that felt overwhelmingly heavy. Sweat trickled down Ella's back, and she wrestled with the terrifying notion that the shadows were drawing closer, waiting for an opportunity. Then suddenly, a piercing scream split the silence. With no chance to react, she turned, and horror gripped her heart. A figure emerged from the swirling shadows, a childlike apparition, eyes wide and pleading, mouthing words she couldn't hear. "Lucas! Mia! Stay behind me!" Ella shouted, heart racing as the figure drew nearer, the resemblance to lost faces undeniable. "Don't look at it." But the pull of familiarity tugged at her children. Lucas's hand slipped from her grasp. "Wait. That's Jamie. She's looking for us." Panic seized possession of Ella. She lunged, grabbing Lucas's arm just as he began to step forward. "No. You can't listen. It's not real." The figure's mouth twisted into a caustic grin, and it hissed with malicious delight. "Come home, Lucas. We miss you." A gust of wind kicked up, swirling with leaves and dirt, making Ella's vision blur. The voice of Jamie echoed through the clearing, mixing with the laughter, weaving a web of confusion that made it hard to think. "Mom." Mia's voice pierced the chaos, full of raw, unfiltered terror. "What do we do?" In that split second, everything felt still, as if they hung suspended between choice and consequence. The shadows danced around them, closing in, growing thirsty for their fears as they laughed in unison. Ella felt a weight settle over her, a fear wrapped in a temptation to surrender to the darkness. If they jumped, they could escape it all. But at what cost? What if it's a trap? She whispered, glancing at the chasm behind them. The voices beckoned and the shadows laughed, erasing the line between safety and doom. Was there even a way out, or were they destined to join those lost souls who had made the same choice before? Ella locked eyes with Mia, then Lucas, and without a second thought, grasped their hands, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As she took a step into the path of shadows, a chilling wind swept through the trees, whispering their names, taunting them, and the darkness responded with a violent roar. "Run!" Ella screamed, and they dashed forward into the thickening dark of the forest, where nothing was what it seemed, but as they ran, the whispering chorus grew louder, promising answers even as their extent shifted. Join us," and in the midst of the chaos, a realization struck Ella with paralyzing fear: they weren't just being hunted. They were being called, to something far worse than the chasm behind them. What waited in the heart of the darkness? Was it too late to turn back, or were they already too far gone? The shadows pressed in around them, thick and hungry, as Ella urged her children forward. Her breath came in ragged gasps, the air heavy with an oppressive darkness that suffocated their hope. "Stay close!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the twisted trees ahead. Mia stumbled, a root snaring her foot. "Mom!" She fell to her knees, hands scraping against the rough forest floor. Lucas hesitated, torn between helping his sister and running from the encroaching chaos. Ella spun around, panic rising in her throat. No. We can't stop. Gritting her teeth, she lunged back to Mia, yanking her up. We have to keep moving. She felt the tug of the shadows, but something fiercer burned within her. The familiar laughter echoed again, mocking their struggle. You'll never escape. Stay with us, let us just go back. Lucas's voice trembled, his eyes wide with fear. What if they're right? Ella shook her head frantically, tightening her grip on Mia's hand. Whatever that thing is, it's not Jamie. We know that. We can't stop, we can't listen. But doubt seeped in. Hadn't they known Jamie once? The warmth of friendship was compelling, but now twisted into a snare. The deeper they went, the more the trees loomed above them, dark branches like skeletal hands reaching for their souls. Run! Ella yelled once more, propelling them down the slanted path. The whispering shadows roared behind them, each footfall echoing their desperate flight. They stumbled into a clearing, the trees parting as if to trap them in a false moment of serenity. But in the middle stood a stone altar, ancient and ominous, covered in strange carvings flickering with faint light. Ella felt its pull, a hypnotic draw that compelled her to move closer. Mom, don't! Mia cried, tugging at her sleeve, fear drenched in her voice. Look! Lucas pointed. The symbols etched into the stone glistened with a beckoning glow, more intense than those on the trees. Ella instinctively stepped forward, heart pounding, breath hitching as she battled the overwhelming urge to reach out. Stay back. Ella turned, panic wrapping around her throat. We don't know what this is. But the shadows quivered around the altar, forming twisting images, faces from Ella's past. Friends, neighbors, even long-lost relatives she hadn't thought of for years. Remember us, Ella? You can join us. Her body tensed, caught between the living world and an unearthly pull. No, she whispered. This isn't real. Just then, a breeze swept through the clearing, rustling leaves and whispering secrets that made Ella's skin crawl. Join us, the voices sang, more sweet than sinister. Make it stop. Lucas shouted, burying his hands in his ears. We have to move. Ella cried, heart racing. They couldn't give in. She grabbed her children's hands, eyes locked with theirs, determined, frightened, yet resolute. Just like before, we don't stop. We trust each other. Beneath her grip, Lucas nodded, determination growing in unison with Mia's trembling resolve. They turned to flee, the shadows swirling around them, grasping at their ankles, desperate to pull them back into the illusion of safety. The path narrowed dangerously, branches scratching their arms, but Ella pressed on. Each step deeper felt like a step into madness. The whispers became frantic, overlapping with each other, crying louder. You can't escape. Join us. Suddenly, through the cacophony, a chilling scream rose, the sound of a boy. Ella's heart sank as she recognized the voice. Lucas. Mia. No. Ella screamed, diverting her gaze, not wanting to see if it was Jamie or someone else even more lost. They couldn't look. They couldn't stop. Then the ground trembled beneath them, a deep rumble growing louder. The altar burst into flickering flames, shadows dancing around it, filling the clearing with a terrifying brightness that swallowed the darkness whole. Look out! Lucas shouted, pulling Mia closer as the shadows writhed around them, trying to break apart the grip of flickering light. The wind howled, lifting leaves into the air like manic spirits spiraling upward while the ground began to crack beneath their feet. Run! Ella commanded again, sensing the shadows slithering closer, the spirits anxious to reclaim their lost. Ahead, a narrow passage through the trees beckoned. The air felt charged, alive with a dark energy. As they ran, Ella's thoughts raced. What was real? What was the cost of their escape? Then she caught a glimpse of the altar one last time before plunging into the passage. The flames raged, transforming the air into a furnace, and the last thing she heard was the echo of laughter, taunting and cruel. They plunged deeper into the unknown, each heartbeat pounding louder with dread. What awaited them beyond the passage? Was there any escape from the darkness surging all around? Ella felt the shadows closing in again, and panic clawed at her throat. The darkness might be more than just empty space, it could be a trap, a snare for their very souls. In that moment of uncertainty, a new realization dawned on her, even more horrifying than the grasp of shadows. They had to face the darkness, they had to confront it head-on. But what if it possessed a truth that could shatter their fragile hope? What secrets lay waiting in the heart of the abyss that was their reality? The passage opened into a vast chamber, a cavern lit by the flickering glow of crimson flames that billowed from cracks in the stone floor. The shadows danced against the jagged walls, transforming into grotesque shapes that writhed and twisted, whispering dark secrets that clawed at Ella's sanity. "Stay close," she urged, pulling Lucas and Mia beside her. Fear coiled tightly around her heart, but she refused to let it paralyze her. They wouldn't turn back now. Ella scanned the chamber, searching for a way out, but what lay ahead was a labyrinth of darkness. "Can we leave?" Lucas whispered, eyes darting nervously. "We'll find a way," she promised, even as despair slithered through her veins. The whispers surged, a tide of voices that echoed her thoughts, taunting, reminding her of the choice that loomed in the cavern. "Join us, Ella," they crooned, a sickly sweet melody wrapping around her like a noose. "You know it's what they all want, no?" she shouted, anger rising unbidden. "I want tea. You've taken enough." The flames flickered higher in response, casting wild shadows that shuddered with laughter, taunting her in its wake. Mia squeezed her hand tighter, trembling. "What do we do?" "I'm scared." "We trust each other," Ella said, the words rushing from her mouth with conviction. "We keep moving." She took a deep breath, willing away the creeping dread, and led the way toward the far wall where the flames seemed to burn brighter. As they moved closer, the shadows appeared from the corners of the cavern, creeping toward them with sinister intent. They reached out, whispering promises of comfort, of quietude, urging Ella to heed the darkness within her. The ache of longing for safety echoed in her mind, nearly causing her to falter. "Mom!" Lucas cried, pointing behind her. "It's coming." The grotesque figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes glinting with malicious glee. "Ella, you promised you'd come back." Its voice twisted through the air, familiar yet terrifying, like an old friend turned enemy. In that moment of chilling recognition, Ella felt her resolve waver. She glanced down at her children, their faces pale with fear, and strength surged within her. "Not now. Not ever." With a determined scream, she charged forward, the flame light illuminating a glimmer on the wall that shimmered like a promise. "A doorway. This way." Ella pulled her children through a gaping aperture leading into an even darker tunnel. They rushed inside, hearts pounding, breaths ragged. "Will it follow us?" Lucas panted, urgency lacing his words. "I will not let it," Ella replied fiercely. The shadows shrieked, rapidly closing in behind them, a dark wave crashing against the threshold of light. They sprinted down the narrow corridor, the walls slick with darkness, each echoing step reverberating through the tunnel as if the earth itself was alive and agitated. And then they burst out, tumbling through a hidden exit, landing on the cool grass of the forest floor. The air filled their lungs with relief, yet the shadows still lurked just out of reach, skirting the edges of the clearing, backlit by the slivers of moonlight that dared to penetrate their veil. Ella led them farther into the trees, heart racing, leaving the echoing whispers behind. "Run!" she cried, and they pushed deeper into the night. Then suddenly, they were in the clearing again, that cursed altar looming before them like a specter. The light flickered weakly, the symbols pulsing dimly. The shadows pressed closer, and Ella's heart sank. This can't be it. But it was the choice hanging before them once more. The laughter returned, merciless and mocking as the figures appeared around it, stretching across the stone like an echo of despair. Join us, we are family, choose wisely mom, we can't. Mia's voice trembled, gripped by lingering fear. Ella turned to her children, her heart aching. Listen. We're stronger together. We won't let this take us. Strength surged in her, binding them in determination against the whispering void. Look at me. Look at each other. Ella urged, her voice fierce. Whatever they promise, this isn't our home. We'll find our way back. For a moment, the children held her gaze, the flicker of uncertainty bubbling away, replaced by the raw strength of familial love. Then she made the leap, pulling them forward toward the altar. She forced herself to trust in the flicker of hope that burned brighter than fear, challenging the darkness with each determined step. Make us part of you. The shadows screamed in a cacophony of rage and despair, their voices giving way to frustrated cries as the pulse of light surged to engulf them. And then the symbols brightened, illuminating the world around them in a moment of intense clarity. For a breath, they stood suspended in time, hate fluttering in darkness as the bond of light wrapped around them, healing and warm. Stay together. Ella shouted, drawing the magic tight as she propelled them toward the light at the center of the altar. The shadows swirled, coiling tight, clinging to them like chains. A gust of wind roared through, pushing against the darkness, scattering the voices to silent whispers and fading shadows. No, come back. You can't leave us. The splendor of light flooded their senses, breaking through the night, and they crossed into a world blanketed in warmth and peace. Ella gasped, the meadow stretching before them, sunlight dancing across a golden horizon and blooming flowers surrounding them in vibrant joy. Where are we? Lucas whispered, eyes wide with awe. We're home, Ella whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks as they embraced. We made it, together. They squared themselves, gazing back toward the shadows swirling and folding into the distance, their forms disappearing in the bright light. And as they sank into the peace of their world, doubt and darkness faded, leaving laughter, joy, and inspiration. Now it was time to leave the fear behind and celebrate the bonds that kept them tethered forever. If you loved this story and want to see more like it, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us keep this incredible community alive. Every action counts.